For nearly 5,000 years, the scorching sands of the Iraqi desert have held relics of the oldest known civilization, the Sumerian. Our world owes the Sumerians everything. They invented writing and the wheel. They divided time into minutes and seconds. They tamed nature and built gigantic cities. They loved culture and the arts. Their caravans crossed the desert, opening up the first trade routes. Their stories inspired our founding myths, and their memory lives on in the Old Testament. They wrote the history of the birth pangs of mankind. Yet 4,000 years ago, this brilliant civilization died out. For a long time, its very existence remained a mystery. But today, the desert sands are at last yielding some of the secrets of this fascinating civilization. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted, and became into 4 heads. The name of the first is Pison, and the name of the second river is Gihon, and the name of the third river is Tigris. That is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria. And the 4th river is Euphrates. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the garden of Eden, to dress it and to keep it. In southern Iraq, a crushing silence hangs over the dunes. The temperature is around the 50-degree mark. The climate has not changed for thousands of years. Yet men and women once lived here. Sandwiched between the Mediterranean and the Persian Gulf is the region that the Greek historian Polybius called Mesopotamia, the country between 2 rivers. It was irrigated by the Euphrates and the Tigris. In the mid-19th century, all we knew of ancient Mesopotamia was what we read in the Bible. French and British archaeologists competed to discover more, and their finds were amazing. They uncovered an unsuspected, buried past. Mesopotamia had once been the cradle of a civilization. But what was so special about these finds? And why did a civilization develop in that part of the world at all?
Ce qui est exceptionnel dans la découverte de la civilisation syro-mésopotamienne, qui ne se fait que depuis 1 siècle et demi, il faut bien en prendre conscience, ce qui était exceptionnel, c'est qu'on s'est aperçu progressivement qu'il s'agissait d'un monde extrêmement diversifié, extrêmement développé et qui, au fond, avait expérimenté déjà beaucoup de modes de vie, beaucoup d'expériences sociales dans un univers que nous ne connaissions pas. Nous avions l'impression que tout commençait avec la civilisation grecque et on s'est aperçu qu'il y avait eu quelque chose avant, et que cet avant avait eu une influence sur le devenir de la civilisation à l'époque classique. L'histoire de la civilisation syro-mésopotamienne correspond au domaine géographique syro-mésopotamien, c'est-à-dire le domaine qui est drainé par les 2 fleuves, le Tigre et l'Euphrate. Mais il y a autre chose, ce n'est pas simplement l'eau pour la vie, l'eau pour la culture, l'eau pour les hommes, c'est aussi l'eau pour le transport. Et ce sont des domaines où les axes des fleuves sont devenus des axes de transport. Et dans un pays comme la Mésopotamie, où il y a des productions agricoles, mais où il y a des lacunes fondamentales, on manque de bois, on manque de pierre, on manque de minerais métalliques lorsqu'il y aura besoin en bronze, en cuivre, eh bien, dans un pays comme celui-là, le fleuve va devenir l'axe de transport privilégié entre deux domaines d'économie différentes et complémentaires.
Our journey begins in the mountains of Armenia, where the Tigris and the Euphrates both rise. Fed by melting snow from the high plateaus, the rivers tumble down the mountain slopes, tearing away tons of silt as they go. They run parallel for over 2,000 kilometers, then merge to form the Shatt al-Arab waterway. The rivers are calmer in the wide desert plains to the south. They deposit fertile soil all the way to the Persian Gulf. But the Tigris and the Euphrates could also be a terrible enemy. The spring floods would sweep away everything in their path. How were people able to settle a land that was so vulnerable to the whims of nature? That question takes us to Baghdad, the Iraqi capital on the banks of the Tigris. In the narrow streets of the old city, the visitor is steeped in the scents of the Orient. Dense crowds and a cheerful tumult are all around. In the colourful bazaars, Iraqis display their ancient talent for commerce. The heritage of the Sumerian civilization is everywhere. The markets have sold the same varieties of fruit and vegetables for thousands of years. In the cool of the arcades, you can buy pomegranates from northern Iraq and the yogurt that the Mesopotamians were specially fond of. On street corners there are earthenware pots of drinking water. The water beads on the surface of the jar and, in evaporating, keeps the water within cool. A Sumerian invention 5,000 years old. But who were the Sumerians? Where did they come from? On the fertile plateaus of Anatolia, several thousand kilometers from Mesopotamia, archaeologists have solved one part of the Sumerian puzzle. They discovered what made it possible for the population to expand and found a civilization. It was einkorn wheat, which grows wild throughout eastern Turkey. People have lived in this fertile region at the crossroads of great migration routes since time immemorial. Tribes of hunter-gatherers found everything here that they needed for their survival. The Kurds keep up the age-old traditions. Every day the women cook such ekmeği, a wheat pancake that forms the whole family's staple diet. In 1958, archaeologists discovered the 9,000-year-old ruins of the village of Çayırnu. 3,500 years before Sumer, people settled on this fertile land. They didn't yet make ceramics, but they were builders. Their houses had mud brick walls on dry stone foundations.